we're going to solve on the interval 0 to 2 pi without a calculator. So these are going to be things that are exact. So the first one we're going to try is 2 sine of x times cosine of x minus sine of x equals 0. Okay. Now when we're doing these, guys, you can't forget, because I like to write x down because it just is maybe a little less work than theta. This is not sine times x. It is sine of x. It is one thing. You can't, so yeah. Just make sure that you keep those together, okay? It's the sine of x. Really what this means is there's like an extra parentheses in there. Okay, but what we can do is we can pull full factors, like a whole sine of x. You can divide by sine of x. You just can't say, oh, divide just by sine or divide just by x. Do you see that? So this is one full factor. This is 2 times sine of x times cosine of x. And then here we have a sine of x. Do you see how they have a sine of x in common? We are going to, this is common factoring. We're going to pull that common factor out to the front. So if you would take this expression and divide by sine of x, what would be left? 2 times cosine of x. If you would take sine of x and divide it by sine of x, wouldn't there be a 1 left? Now we're going to use that zero product property. Zero product property we learned back in algebra, and it says if you have two things that multiply to be 0, we can set them each equal to 0. So it's not x equals 0 though, it's the sine of x equals 0. So this is where we have to figure out x. X is an angle between 0 and 2 pi. So let's think. Why am I doing my fingers? Unit circle. Alright. Sine is the second coordinate, right? Where in the unit circle is the sine 0? 0 and on the other side, which would be? Yep. So the answer to this one is 0 and pi. Alright, so now let's do this one. So we're going to get cosine of x alone so we can figure out it's going to be an exact cosine value. Can I add 1 to both sides and then divide by 2? Do I have to write all those steps out? I hope not. Add 1, divide by 2. Alright, so now this is saying, where's the cosine? 1/2. That's up here, right? Which is pi thirds. Over here the cosine is negative, so it's not quadrant 3 and it's 4, but then it's down at the bottom again, so it's pi thirds and 5 pi thirds. Can you have your unit circle out? You can, but remember you're not going to have it on an assessment, so I would try to start practicing to do it without. So that would be all the intervals between 0 and 2 pi. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, so we're going to do cosine of x times cotangent squared of x minus cosine of x equals 0. Okay, so this is another common factoring one. So what should I do? Let's take out the common factor of cosine of x. And that leaves me with cotangent squared x minus 1. So then I solve. Cosine of x equals 0. Where is that? One more. Good. So cosine is 0 at the top, right? Okay, and at the bottom. So this would be x equals pi halves and 3 pi halves. Yes, 0 to 2 pi. So 1 full rotation. Okay, so cotangent squared minus 1, that would be the same as cotangent squared x equals 1, agreed? Then what should we do? Take the square root and be very, very careful, because what do we have to add in front? Plus or minus 1. So we are trying to find where the cotangent is plus or minus 1, and this is going to be the fourth, right? The only spot where cotangent would be 1 is where the coordinates are the same, or the opposites, and that would be at all of the fourths. So pi fourths, 3 pi fourths, 5 pi fourths, 7 pi fourths. Okay. Do you want to do another one? I'll do another with a different kind of factoring. Alright, what if I said find all solutions? Find all solutions. Here's the deal, guys. To find all solutions, you just find the ones from 0 to 2 pi, and then write plus 2 pi n, because aren't they going to repeat every time they hit that same spot on the unit circle? So this one I'm going to write is 2 sine squared of x plus 3 sine of x plus 1 equals 0. So this is not a common factoring one, because those two things have a common factor, but you see that one there. This is like, I'm going to give you an example. This is like if I said, hey, what's factor 2y squared plus 3y plus 1? How would you factor that? Something like this. Into 2 binomials? So this is not common factoring. We're going to factor it into 2 binomials. The only way we can get a sine squared in front is if we have one of them be sine of x and the other be 2 sine of x. Agreed? Okay. So remember we're doing first outsides, insides last, and reversing that multiplication. Let's go to the end. What's the only way I can get a 1 here? What's the only way? What are the only two things that multiply to be 1? 1 and 1. Okay. And also the sign would have to be plus plus, because they're all positives in there. So this is going to be a plus 1 plus 1. Let me show you why that works. Multiply it out in our head. 2 sine squared plus 1 sine x plus 2 sine x. Doesn't that add up to be 3 sine x? Yep. And then 1 times 1 is 1. Alright, so let's set our factors equal to 0. If sine of x plus, this is sine of x plus 1 equals 0. So I'm trying to find where does the sine of x equal negative 1. And where does that happen? Where does sine of x equal negative 1? Yep, so x equals 3 pi halves. Now the difference between what I asked in the last question is in the last question I said just find the one on the interval. If I said find all solutions, here's what we do. We write plus 2 pi n. All that means is then, if that 3 pi halves, that's at the bottom of the unit circle, and every 2 pi, that it's gonna get there again. So every multiple of 2 pi, so I'm gonna say where n is an integer. All right, let's find the other one. Let's go back up here. So this is 2 sine of x plus 1 equals 0. So if I were to solve that, that would be sine of x equals what? Negative 1/2. So it's going to be in quadrants 3 and 4. At what angle? Yep. 5 pi 6. And I'll write plus 2 pi n. And then the other is 7. No. Is it 5 pi 6? No, it's not, is it? It's sine. No, because it's got to, the sign is positive at 5 pi 6. It's got to be 7 pi 6. And so that's a 7 pi 6. And then also 11 pi 6. Plus 2 pi.